Saitou was a disgusting loser who worked as a handyman for a small company, where his ugly boss treated and paid him poorly while the HR department made reels. Wondering whether this was all left for him in this life, he starts walking down the street back to his garbage dump when Truck Kun decides to yeet him into an alternate world filled with wizards, warriors, and magical creatures. He soon realizes that surviving in this world ain't like his regular Shicho 9-to-5 job anymore. But little does anyone know that in a world where everyone is slaying monsters, being a guy who can actually fix stuff will make him the MVP. Saitou soon runs into a quirky group of adventurers who want his help with their dungeon-crawling adventures. The team includes Railza, a strong yet shy warrior, Laufenpan, a tiny fairy healer who can be a selfish when it comes to using her magic, and Morlock, an old fart wizard who's super powerful but often forgets his spells right in the middle of using them. This oddball crew starts to bond, and Saitou's handyman skills really come in handy. He helps unlock chests, fix gear, and even organize their stuff for traveling. Everyone realizes how valuable Saitou is, and he starts to feel appreciated in this new world, which is a nice change from his old life. One day, a baldy con man comes to sell a junk blade to the little girl who owns the town shop, and she gladly takes the useless sword for 18 gold coins. Later, when Saitou looks at it, he quickly concludes that it's a dummy sword, but he can repair it with his handyman skills. The next day, they are in a dimly lit cave, fighting a group of ugly monsters, but the wizard keeps jumbling up his spells like a stupid blockhead. Soon Railza comes to the rescue of Saitou and the old geezer and kills the monsters with her massive sword. After this incident, Saitou realizes that he is a burden to his teammates because his bird brain is only trained to be a handyman, but he can't survive in this screwed up world without magic. So, to avoid being a burden, he learns all the spells of the wizard in a few days and starts helping him in their missions. Later, as they're struggling to open the chest with Saitou's help, the cave suddenly starts to crumble and Saitou finds himself tumbling down and lands hard on his butt in a dark, eerie underground cave. Groaning in pain, he quickly realizes that his leg is broken and bleeding, which means he can't escape on his own. Soon, he starts feeling haunted by his miserable past, convinced that his teammates will see him as a burden and abandon him here. But soon, Saitou spots Railza, along with the wizard and the fairy Laufenpan, rushing towards him in a panic. They reassure him that they'll never leave him behind because he's truly irreplaceable. Hearing this, Saitou is filled with an unfamiliar warmth, and a wave of happiness washes over him. The next day, they are fighting against a multi-headed slimy sea monster named Anagi. Railza is already puking because she can't stand a snotty creature with slime all over its body. So, the wizard casts a magic spell on the Anagi, while Saitou slashes it with his sword and kills it. Then Saitou puts his badass cooking skills to work and turns the Anagi into a mouth-watering roasted dish, and the moment he serves it up, both the wizard and the fairy are blown away by the incredible flavor. Soon, they start gaslighting Railza into tasting it too, and once she takes a bite, she feels like she has landed in pure bliss and soon gobbles it all. After a hearty meal, they enter a no-magic cave to continue with the mission. Soon, they spot a chest, but sensing that the crappy chest might have some traps, he leaves it behind. After a while, they come across another chest and Saitou uses his tools to break it away from metal traps. But as soon as he does that, a stinky green liquid falls on Railza's armor and melts the metal away, revealing her curvy body. As they sit around the campfire, the old wizard suddenly feels a cramp in his back. He asks Laufenpan to use her magic to help him. However, the greedy fairy demands a gold coin in return. The wizard has no money left after losing it all in gambling, so Saitou offers to pay for him. Later, when Saitou asks Railza why Laufenpan always acts as a self-centered bitch, Railza takes him to Laufenpan. He notices that Laufenpan is offering the gold coin to the moon, and when he inquires about this strange ritual, Railza tells him that Laufenpan is a moonlight fairy. And despite having a beautiful name, her people have been cursed by the goddess of the moon, so if she doesn't offer gold coins, their bodies become smaller. She tells Saitou that the moonlight fairies used to live on the moon, but the jealous moon goddess cursed them and threw them on the earth. Hearing this, Saitou offers to cover Laufenpan's debt with his savings, but Railza tells him that the fairy is not a free hoarder and will not accept his offer. The next day, Saitou opens a chest, but it turns out to be a teleportation trap that pulls him and Railza to the lowest floor of the Great Labyrinth. But the wizard and the fairy were not affected by it because their bodies are immune to magic. Suddenly, a huge iron golem appears before them and Railza urgently asks Saitou to stay behind her and escape if things go out of hand. She charges at it with her majestic sword, but the golem quickly knocks her away. An injured Railza asks Saitou to run, but he jumps on the golem and pours molten metal liquid on it. In a last-ditch effort, the golem slams Saitou to the ground, leaving him badly hurt as Railza desperately tries to wake him up. As time slips away, Railza prays for the wizard and Lafapan to come and save Saitou with their magic. But suddenly she remembers that the wizard once gave her a life-saving potion called Drop of Life. She quickly pours it in her mouth and kisses Saitou to drop the liquid in his mouth, to heal his wounds. After some time, Saitou wakes up to see the wizard, the fairy and Railza anxiously waiting for him to come back to life. Lafapan jumps in joy and tells him how Railza saved him, leaving Railza a blushing mess. The next morning, Lafapan takes Saitou on a tour of the strange world he has landed in. They first stop at the marriage consultancy, and Saitou is a bit too surprised to see that this magical world too has a marriage consultancy office to help people with arranged marriages. Lafapan asks him to save his surprise, because the kingdom has a lot of mind-blowing things that will drop his jaw on the floor. Lafapan tells him that their kingdom is pretty peaceful, and the amount of weapons and magic that anyone can use has increased to a great extent. All these advancements have led to special progress for women, allowing them to go on adventures. Moreover, the treasure in the labyrinth has been exhausted, which means that the men have less income, and that makes marriages even more difficult. Soon, she asks Saitou to look inside the marriage consultancy office again, and Saitou is shocked to see that their old geezer wizard is inside, trying to find a bride for himself. But suddenly Railza comes and drags him away, and the marriage consultant lady breathes a sigh of relief. The fairy explains to Saitou that the advancement of remedy magic has led to an aging population, and the issue of caregivers has become a serious pain in the end. Their next mission takes them back into the cave, where they meet a temptation fairy known for her charming looks. As Saitou approaches her, the fairy casts a spell that makes him fall madly in love with her. The once shy Saitou begins to change, moving toward the fairy in a daze, his personality shifting from quiet to flirtatious. Railza watches in disbelief as her crush gets seduced by a half-naked fairy. Anger builds inside her, and with determination, she charges at the fairy with her sword drawn. A strange, intense rage takes over her body as she swings at the fairy, who, frightened for her life, desperately dodges Railza's attacks. Railza's fierce pursuit soon forces the temptation fairy to flee, but the spell on Saitou is still active. Now enchanted, Saitou feels an overwhelming attraction to Railza and starts moving toward her while she nervously steps back, unsure of what to do. Saitou, still under the fairy's spell, inches closer to her face, nearly ready to kiss her, but Lafapan steps in, breaking the spell and freeing Saitou from the fairy's influence. But the tension doesn't end there. Suddenly, they see the old wizard standing hand in hand with the temptation fairy. Saitou becomes worried, thinking the wizard has also fallen under her charm. However, Railza casually reassures him, explaining that the wizard is immune to magic and will soon be rejected by the fairy. With a smirk, she tells Saitou not to worry about the old hag, easing his fears as they move forward together. Later they come across a trap where one can get struck by lightning if they are wearing metal armor. Saitou asks if they can move past this trap, but since Railza is wearing metal armor, she is in real danger. The wizard asks Railza to remove the armor for now, so he can use his magic to help move her armor over the lightning trap. But Railza is a bit hesitant in removing her armor because she is wearing revealing clothes underneath it, and removing the armor will only make her uncomfortable. Sensing Railza's discomfort, the gentleman Saitou quickly removes his shirt and offers it to Railza to wear it for some time. But as soon as they step on the trap, the wizard himself gets struck with the lightning because the dumb old hag forgets his magic spells like always. Later, when Saitou is sitting in a rented room, he comes across a strange book that is locked with a rusty lock. He tries to use his handyman skills to unlock the book, but the book is a bit strange. When he opens it, the book has a case with a rotten mushroom, and suddenly the wizard comes behind him. He explains that the mushroom is called a cockaman-root mushroom, and it's delicacy among delicacies, which cannot be wasted. He takes the mushroom in his hands and starts sniffing it like an old geezer on drugs. He tells him that he hid it a long time back so that no one can snatch it from him, and then he proceeds to tell Saitou how to eat it. Suddenly Railza throws open the gate of the room, demanding her share of mushrooms as well, and Saitou wonders if he is stuck with a bunch of mushroom maniacs. One day, while they are on their mission to kill a dragon, Saitou accidentally breaks one of his best wire cutter tools while removing the whiskers of the dead dragon. Seeing him a bit upset, Railza asks if he can fix it himself, but Saitou is not a smith, so he shakes his head in distress. He wonders if there is a craftsman who would know how to fix his beloved tool quickly. Seeing him depressed over his broken tool, the wizard suggests that they should ask one of his acquaintances, though he is a bit strange. The wizard's acquaintance is a man named Domben, and he is also infamously known as the man who hears the voice of steel. He has mastered the art of manipulating steel to change its shape completely and make new tools out of them. He is a dwarf who can create everything from armor for little people to shields for giants, so he is a professional at his work. But the dwarf retired because his customers didn't pay him well, and always complained about him overcharging. The wizard tells them that the dwarf is hiding at the deepest end of the cave that is behind a door that will not open without Donbane's 108 keys, and that's where he hides himself away. He adds that entering the workshop is more difficult than sneaking into the king's bedchamber. However, Saitou takes the challenge of opening the 108 locks, and after a little effort he succeeds. They all enter the dwarf's workshop and greet the grumpy old man. The dwarf is utterly surprised to see that a handyman from another world managed to unlock the 108 locks with his unparalleled skills. Soon, the dwarf fixes Saitou's tool with his exceptional skills and asks Saitou to pay him with a dragon scale, and he gladly pays him with one. He closely observes his repaired tool and looks in awe at how the dwarf managed to make the edges of the blade in mithril silver, crafting and joining it with perfection. Suddenly, he opens his mouth to ask the dwarf to make something else for him, but when the dwarf asks him what it is, he switches the topic and asks him for food. The dwarf readily prepares dinner for them, and while they are drinking and shoving the food down their throats, Saitou asks Railza if women, children, and even the powerless can easily obtain weapons to kill, then what will happen. Hearing this, a half-drunk Railza replies that something like that will be bad for business. Then Saitou thinks about having a gun that might be helpful in battles, but he is hesitant to introduce those dangerous weapons in this world. He pushes aside his thoughts and abruptly stands up, asking Railza to teach him how to use a sword. But Railza falls asleep after drinking a lot of beer. After some days, Saitou catches a brutal flu, and he is suffering from extreme temperatures. The fairy declares that she doesn't have any magic that will cure a cold, and the wizard agrees with her. Railza tells Saitou to take some rest while they will focus on jobs where they can defeat monsters. Hearing this, Saitou apologizes to her and says that he is useless in battle anyway. But little does he know that he has helped the wizard with his magic spells, helped Laugh-n-Pan during a battle, and even saved Railza from the Iron Giant monster. The various forms of support that the handyman Saitou provides on the battlefield are helpful for his teammates, and without him, his party can no longer function in a proper way. It has been half a year that Saitou has been zapped in this mysterious world. He tells the town's shop girl about his past life, saying that he was employed by a construction company in his world. Unfortunately, his pay was very less, and he was not respected at all, and when he tried to talk to his boss about that, he fired him like it was nothing. Dejected, he thought that his employer would try to stop him while he was returning home, and somewhere in his heart, he thought that it would be fine if he died. While he was lost in his thoughts and walking back home, a huge truck came before him, smashing against his body, and he disappeared like no one ever needed him. But the next moment, Saitou dropped from the sky, next to a half-naked, asleep girl who was mumbling about an old geezer and a fairy. When she opened her eyes, she screamed in fright after seeing a stranger lying next to her on bed. She immediately took out her dagger to kill Saitou for being a pervert, but the wizard stopped her, saying that he doesn't sense any magic power coming from Saitou. That obviously meant that Saitou was not from this world, so if the old wizard hadn't saved him, he would have been dead by now. Now, they all are sitting in a local inn for dinner, but Saitou has no appetite because he keeps thinking about the iron golem. He asks the wizard and Railza about how the golem was moving on its own and suspects it to be run by magic or clockwork. But while he was fighting the iron golem, he felt that it made a mechanical noise, as if it was run by an engine. The fairy asks if they should go check its remains to confirm. Railza agrees that they should go on the 10th floor again to check it out. Soon, they reach the government-controlled labyrinth, but they are stopped by the guards on the entrance, asking them to give the toll fee. Railza tells them that the year-long pass is too expensive for them to buy, so they should allow them to enter the labyrinth with a few silver coins, and the guards agree. They enter the cave and soon realize that all the chests are empty, and they can't gather any treasure. After walking for some time, they reach the destination where they killed the golem, but there is no trace of its corpse anywhere. The wizard says that someone might have taken it home. Saitou apologizes to them for asking them to come along with him to a faraway place. Soon, Saitou hears a clunking noise and he runs off in that direction, with Railza, the wizard, and the fairy following him. He catches hold of a whizzing machine which turns out to be a robot vacuum. Soon, the robot vacuum jumps out of Saitou's hands and runs off in the darkness. Seeing this, the wizard asks if the robot is something from Saitou's world, and he nods in agreement. Soon, Saitou places his hand on a wall, and the wizard replies that it's a camouflage barrier. With Saitou's help, he chants a magic spell and a bright light emerges from the wall. Soon, it splits apart in two, revealing another entrance. With the opening of a new entrance, adventurers from all over the kingdom began to gather again, seeing that Saitou didn't get any recognition from the kingdom for finding a new entrance. Saitou replies that he doesn't mind that because they will have free admission for the next 10 years. The wizard notices a sad look on Saitou's face and asks if he is still thinking about the robot vacuum cleaner that they found in the cave earlier. Saitou is a bit hesitant at first, and before he can reply, a charming young boy and an adorable young girl come before him. The boy introduces himself as Kainz, the officially recognized hero of the kingdom, and bows down, expressing his gratitude to Saitou for finding the new path. Saitou asks the wizard if the Demon King will return, and the wizard replies that it's unlikely that the Demon King will return, but several people have been chosen as heroes and Kainz is one of them. Soon, Kainz casually says that even if Saitou was the one to discover a new route, he will be the one to win all its levels. They all look at him in disbelief, bewildered by how rude he is, but suddenly a fatty priest comes running to them. He apologizes on behalf of the two young heroes, explaining that the young hero was chosen very early, and that's why his manners are not up to the mark. He introduces himself as Montel Puet, in charge of the hero's education. He extends his hand of friendship towards Saitou, but he is stopped by another hero, saying that the rogue Montel has something hidden in his hand, and everyone who shook hands with him is unable to move. When Saitou looks around, he sees a bunch of soldiers, men, adventurers lying on the ground, groaning in pain because they are unable to move their bodies. Sensing that his plan is exposed, Montel quickly runs away in fear. Saitou thanks the stranger for saving him from Montel, and Riesel notices that the stranger is a fighter elf with iron hands. Soon, the elf asks his fellow mates to hurry and reach the labyrinth, otherwise the rarest treasures will be harvested. After a while, they see two strange men carrying the head of the silver dragon, and Railza points out to Saitou that they both are going to be a tough competition for them in the future, because out of everyone, they have the strongest party. The next day, Saitou and his team go back into the labyrinth, feeling ready but tense. They walk carefully through the dark, winding paths, each step quiet as they keep their eyes on the shadows around them. There's an eerie stillness, broken only by distant sounds of dripping water. Suddenly, a loud, angry roar fills the air, and a huge dragon-like monster appears from the darkness. Without warning, it opens its mouth and blows a thick cloud of toxic smoke toward Morlock, the team's wizard. Morlock breathes in the smoke, his body weakens, and he falls to the ground, unconscious. Saitou rushes over to Morlock's side, heart pounding as he tries to wake him up, knowing they need Morlock's magic to stand a chance. Meanwhile, Railza, the team's warrior, steps forward, gripping her sword tightly and raising her metal shield, ready to face the dragon head-on. The dragon charges at Railza with fierce power, and each blow sends shockwaves through her body. The monster's strength forces her backward, her boots scraping against the stone floor as she fights to hold her ground. She blocks each attack with her shield, but her arms start to shake under the force. Despite her courage, Railza's sword barely scratches the dragon's tough scales. The creature's hard, thick skin protects it, and each hit from the dragon's tail nearly throws her off balance. Just then, a young girl with twin pigtails appears out of nowhere. She moves with confidence and speed, charging toward the dragon with her weapon raised. She strikes the dragon's side, and for the first time, the monster howls in pain, surprised by the sharp blows. The dragon twists and snarls, trying to shake her off, but she continues to attack without hesitation. Each of her hits finds a weak spot in the dragon's scales, making the beast stagger. With one last powerful strike, the girl lands a final blow. The dragon lets out a long, painful roar before it falls to the ground, defeated. The girl introduces herself as Liliza Lassenpop, and people call her the magical beast hunter. Soon another hulky guy comes to stand beside her, and she introduces him as Giver. She declares that they are here to take the treasure, but it's locked. She asks them not to worry because Giver, her companion, is a magician with the skills of the thieves. But when Giver tries to open the lock with his tools, he declares that it's difficult for him. Saitou asks if he should give it a try and Liliza looks at him with side eyes, underestimating his skills. Soon, Railza backs Saitou and angrily declares that they should not underestimate their teammate Saitou. Soon, Saitou gets to work, and with his skillful hands and tools, he manages to unlock the chest in no time. He opens the chest and gasps in surprise as the chest contains diamonds. He picks up a few and proceeds to give them to Giver, saying that it belongs to them for defeating the dragon. But Giver turns into a dark shade of red as if he is flustered. It turns out that it isn't the treasure chest that Saitou opened, but Saitou opened the heart of Giver too. After a while, Saitou somehow got separated from his team, and after walking a bit, he comes across the rogue Montal again. He tells Montal that he won't roam around anymore because his friends roughly know where he is, so he will just sit here for some time and rest. Montal looks at him and comments that Saitou is weak, but looks like he is only full of confidence. He gaslights Saitou by saying that his teammates must be strong, and that's why he manipulated them to take him in. Seeing that his gaslighting is not affecting Saitou at all, he quickly drops his luggage and builds a barrier around him, and when Saitou asks about it, he replies that it's a barrier to keep the monsters away. He looks at Saitou and replies that unfortunately he doesn't have enough magical energy to build one for Saitou. Saitou takes out a bunch of bottles that contain the holy water. These bottles were given to him by Fairy Laugh-N-Pan, and he spills the contents of the bottle to make a protective barrier around him as well and sits down comfortably. He soon offers Montal some sandwiches, but Montal refuses to take any because he is guilty for treating Saitou like a pest before. Montal realizes that he has an unkind attitude that drives people away from him. Soon, Saitou's team members come running towards him, asking if he is doing okay. Looking at their strong bond, Montal feels a bit sad because his teammates didn't come to find him. But suddenly he sees Kainz running towards him, and he hugs him, yelling that he was worried about him. He asks him why he wandered off on his own. Hearing this, Montal gets tears in his eyes, while Saitou and his teammates are utterly moved by their friendship. They realize that Kainz is a pretty good hero, and they all misunderstood him. Next, they are confronted by a strange demon, shaped like a spider, and Railza is fighting with it. Just when she is about to take that monster down with a brutal attack, the fighter elf lands on top of the spider and kills it. After killing the monster, he declares that he will be taking the treasure the monster was guarding. Railza yells in protest, saying that it belongs to her and her teammates. The elf turns to face her and says that he was the one who saved her, but Railza argues that she didn't need any help. The elf says that he saved her from being killed, and soon they both start bickering and arguing with each other over the treasure. Finally, it is decided that they want to settle it with a duel, even though it's forbidden for adventurers to fight each other within the Great Labyrinth, and if they are caught then they will be forbidden to enter it. The elf says that he doesn't mind getting in a duel if there is mutual consent. His teammate Ninia tries to stop him, but he doesn't listen to her and asks Riesel to send someone from her side. Ninia and Laugh-N-Pan step forward to forge a promise which says that even if anyone from their sides will die, there will be no grudges. Soon, the magical seal is set. Soon, Railza and the elf get ready to fight, while Saitou is confused about a warrior's sense of values, but all he can do is watch them from the sidelines. He is a bit comforted by the fact that Railza has a heavy armor, so she won't get any fatal wounds from the elf's iron claws. Soon, the duel begins with the clanking of sword and claws, but the elf is fast enough to injure Railza through her armor with his sharp claws. Saitou realizes that Railza's sword isn't suited to fight quick, skilled opponents like the elf. Suddenly Railza removes her armor and activates herself into a light armor, which will allow her to reduce her reaction time. Ninia asks the elf to stop, saying that she doesn't want him to kill anyone. It's better to not get into a fight, and the elf agrees because he has already realized that he might have lost if he would have continued the duel. Soon, Saitou appears before them and says that his team's portion of treasure might be too much, so he wishes to give some to the elf and Ninia. Now Saitou and the others have reached the lower floors, and suddenly Saitou sees the robot vacuum cleaner again. This time he sprints towards the sound of the robot, yelling to his teammates that he will be fine by himself. He keeps running after the robot, asking it to wait, but the robot keeps getting deeper and deeper into the cave. Soon, Saitou reaches a strange place which is stacked with things from his world. Just when he is trying to make sense of the things around him, a masked ninja with a sharp sword attacks him, but Railza steps up in time to save him from the attack. She senses illumination magic around her and wonders why there is so much light when a ninja's speciality is to stay in dark. Soon, the ninja steps on her shadow and Railza can't move anymore and her body is stuck to the ground. He lunges towards Railza to attack her, but the blacksmith dwarf comes to her rescue and shoots an arrow towards the ninja. Soon, La Fampa starts tackling the ninja's companion fairy, trying to reduce her illumination magic. Soon, the dwarf chants a magic spell that sends explosions inside the cave and the ninja runs away to escape. The dwarf tells that the ninja is the one who is behind all the sneaky attacks on the adventurers. Seeing the wizard, the dwarf bows in front of him saying that he is looking for the wizard for a long time, and finally he found him. The wizard is bewildered when the dwarf addresses him as his master and replies that he only takes women as his students. The dwarf calmly replies that it's been quite some time since the wizard lost his memories, but he is the renowned magician in a land far to the east. But 20 years ago, he left on a journey looking for forbidden magic and never returned. The dwarf explains that he caught the sight of the wizard at the entrance of the Great Labyrinth and was waiting for an opportunity to speak to him. Railza asks the wizard if he has forgotten what happened in the past, and he replies that other than his name Morlock and his magic, he can't really remember anything. Lafinpan adds that lately his skills with magic are also making him pretty useless because he keeps forgetting the chants very often. The dwarf butts in saying that they shouldn't speak harshly to a mage who is a great magician who is also quite popular with the ladies. Suddenly, he speaks in a serious tone that the wizard's real name is the Great Mage Bergheim, but suddenly a dagger comes from nowhere and stabs him in the neck. The sudden attack prompted Railza and others to take their positions wondering if it's the ninja from before. Railza thinks to herself that even if the ninja is formidable, but with Saitou supporting the wizard's spells, they can overpower him. Suddenly, they all gasp in horror when they see the ninja, but now he is accompanied by the great demons. The ninja's past story is a tragic melodrama. He fell in love with a beautiful witch, and when they kissed, the witch fell in love with him too. However, when he went to the witch's village to take her with him, but to his horror, the witch was taking her last breaths. She has turned old and white, and the ninja's fairy companion told him that once the witch fell in love with him, the curse on her age broke down, and now she is back to her real age. The ninja desperately wanted to save the love of his life, so the fairy told him about the great mage of the East, who can help save the witch's life. And it turned out that the wizard of the East is the old geezer who is Saitou's teammate, and that's how the ninja ended up following them to the cave. As the battle intensifies, Railza, Lafinpan, and their companions find themselves up against powerful foes. Railza faces off with the ninja, who uses his skills in shadow magic to try to hold her down. He attempts to trap her by stepping on her shadow, which would stop her from moving. But Lafinpan, ready to help, quickly casts a bright moonlight spell. The magic light lands on the shadow, breaking the ninja's spell and allowing Railza to stay free. Lafinpan reminds Railza to stay alert, warning her of the danger if the ninja steps on her shadow again. She has also just healed the dwarf magician, who now returns to the fight to defend them against the approaching demons. The dwarf is determined to protect his friends and faces off against the demons and shields his allies from their attacks. While blocking the demons, he signals to the wizard to get ready with his strongest spells. The dwarf knows they need to hold off the demons just long enough for the wizard to strike back with powerful magic. The battle becomes even more intense as a second demon joins in. This demon boldly declares that he and his fellow demon need no magic to win because their sheer strength is enough to defeat Saitou and his party. With a surge of power, the second demon unleashes a huge wave of dark energy aimed at Saitou and his friends. The wave is so intense that Saitou feels overwhelmed, realizing that fiery magic is not enough to stand against these demons. Blaming himself for bringing everyone to such a dangerous place, Saitou feels a heavy responsibility, so he asks the wizard to use a high-level spell called the Seven Thunder Gods, hoping it will be powerful enough to change the battle. Saitou already knows the chant, so he begins reciting it while the wizard repeats after him, focusing all his energy on the spell. Suddenly, a massive lightning bolt crashes down on the demons, sparking with intense power. For a moment, it seems like they might have finally won. But one of the demons withstands the attack and, in a brutal move, grabs Saitou in his huge hand, crushing him and causing blood to spill. Railza watches in shock and sorrow as she believes Saitou has been killed. The sight is devastating, and it feels like the ground is slipping out from under her feet. But then, in a surprising twist, they all look up and see Saitou standing safely with Liliza and Guyver by his side. The wizard explains that Guyver used a special spell, a substitution spell, to save Saitou in the nick of time. With Saitou safe, Everyone breathes a sigh of relief, grateful for Guyver's quick thinking. After calming down, Guyver explains that he and Liliza heard the noise from the battle and decided to come help. With a playful tone, he mentions that they couldn't let Saitou take all the treasure for himself. Liliza adds with a smile that Guyver has actually been following Saitou for some time, using a tracking spell because he likes him. The group laughs, relieved to be safe for now and comforted by the thought that they are stronger together, ready to face whatever comes next. But suddenly the demon comes running towards them in anger. However, the forest elf warrior comes to their rescue and kicks the demon on its face. The demon lifts itself in the air and spits another wave of dark energy on everyone. But it is surprised to notice that someone has cast a barrier on them to save them. When they all look the other way, they see Montel with his teammates casting a barrier to save them from the demon. They all come together as a team to face off against the ninja and the demons. Seeing so many warriors against him, the ninja feels naturally threatened and the demons decide to pull off from the mess and save themselves. Ninia asks Laufenpan to help her in stopping the demons from escaping because they might pose a huge danger to high-level adventurers who might be there in the labyrinth. Ninia suggests using combined magic to eliminate them and Laufenpan agrees. Primus, the ninja's fairy, tries to stop them, but she is attacked by the magician Richie's magic arrow. Seeing that his demon friends are in danger, the ninja takes the blow of the combined magic, ready to die in the place of his beloved friends. For the first time in his life, he stood up for selfless reasons, and soon the magic hit him and the demon stood there bewildered. The ninja declares that he is carrying out the expedition for the woman he loves, so the demons don't have to force themselves to follow him. Ninia looks at the ninja and tells everyone that the magic shot didn't have much effect on him, but it should have caused severe damage. Saitou asks everyone to stop because the winner is already decided, but the fairy elf jumps in protest, saying that they can't leave them because they are under suspicion for killing other adventurers. The ninja's fairy screams in anger, saying that they will not have anyone have the hidden treasure of the wizard who controls time, and she starts summoning an 8-tier dark magic to protect her master and help him save the witch. The dwarf explains that the fairy is a black crystal fairy that is capable enough to store magical energy in her black wings. It turns out that the fairy deeply cares for the witch, because she was always chased by adventurers who wanted to take advantage of her black wings. In order to save herself from those adventurers, she decided to become a plump fairy so that humans are no longer interested in her. But being plump slowed her body movements, and eventually she was caught by one of the adventurers. However, the witch saves her and takes her home, and since they both were outcasts, they went along well with each other. The witch tells her that she has been living for 400 years in a lonely outcast shelter. She tells the fairy that she is under a curse, and if she falls in love, the curse will be broken and she will die. However, the ninja doesn't want to sacrifice the fairy, so he holds her wings in order to stop her from using her black magic on Saitou and everyone. She yells at the ninja to rip off her wings to unleash her magic, but the ninja can't gather the courage to do that. So the fairy uses her handless telekinesis and stabs her wings with 2 daggers on each side. She offers her wings to the Lord of Darkness, and soon a pillar falls inside the cave, indicating that it's the dark spirit. Soon, several eyes start emerging on the pillar's body, and suddenly the elf looks at one of the eyes and it sends him flying across the cave, ripping his ear. Suddenly another eye of the pillar sends a gust of energy towards the elf and her teammate, but Raelza blocks it with her sword. She soon realizes that the ninja and her party mates used themselves as sacrifices to summon the dark spirits. Now the evil spirit is creating havoc inside the cave, and Saitou asks the wizard to use his 7 gods thunder technique again. The wizard raises his spade in the air and starts chanting a bunch of spells to summon the thunderbolts, while Saitou keeps helping him remember the chants. The lightning soon strikes the black magic pillar, but unfortunately nothing happens to it. The pillar becomes extremely hyper and starts shooting red beams of energy from all its eyes. The dwarf asks everyone to aim for the eye of the pillar, but it keeps blocking all the attacks and stars gaining more power with each passing second. With its insane power, no one can get a chance to move closer to its body and attack. Laufenpan screams in terror that she will soon run out of her magical energy, and then she won't be capable of blocking its attacks anymore. Saitou asks the wizard to unleash the magic which stops time. The wizard looks at him in disbelief and asks how he knows about that magic. Saitou replies that when he opened the locked book with the mushroom, he found a secret paper which had the instructions of the magic that controls time and space. Saitou already knows that it was the wizard who teleported him to this world. Once the wizard heard those words, memories from his past flooded his mind. He remembered the days when he was tirelessly working on a powerful magic project. Back then, he had a little daughter who meant the world to him. One day, he promised her that he would become the greatest magician in the land, so they could live happily together in a wonderful home. He dreamed of giving her the best life, but he was obsessed with his work. Then, one dark day, his daughter became very ill. His wife begged him to stay back and help care for her, but he brushed her off, saying he couldn't leave his work. He explained that if he didn't finish his project, all his efforts would be wasted. He thought that once he became a famous mage, they'd have a brighter future. Days passed as he poured himself into his work, ignoring his family. Finally, he achieved his goal and became recognized as the most powerful wizard. He rushed home, eager to share the news, only to be met with heartbreaking silence. His daughter had passed away due to the illness. His wife told him, filled with sorrow, that their little girl was gone. Stunned and broken, he realized how much he had sacrificed, only to lose the very person he loved most. His wife, filled with grief and anger, left him, and the wizard was left alone, filled with sorrow and regret. In a fit of rage, he destroyed his magical books, one after another, until he came across a strange, ancient book. In it, he read about a mysterious labyrinth in the northern kingdom that held the secret of time magic, the power to turn back time. Hope ignited in his heart, and he decided to find this magic and bring his daughter back. He journeyed to the great labyrinth, tirelessly searching for any trace of this powerful spell. After days of wandering, he stumbled upon a strange pile of objects that seemed out of place. Among them was an ancient script containing the spell he sought. Just as he picked it up, a figure in white robes appeared before him. The wizard asked the stranger to teach him the magic, explaining that he wanted to bring his daughter back to life. The stranger, however, did not agree so easily and challenged the wizard to a duel, saying that only if the wizard won would he teach him the spell. The battle was fierce and left both of them exhausted and wounded. Finally, the stranger, who was impressed by the wizard's determination, agreed to grant his wish. But instead of teaching him the time spell, the stranger cast a different kind of magic. The spell made the wizard forget all his memories, including his daughter, his wife, and even his regrets. With no memory of his past, he was forced to start a new life, no longer haunted by his sorrow. In the end, the wizard lost all that he once held dear, left with a blank slate and a new life he would live without the weight of his memories. Back in the present, the old wizard stands quietly, trying to piece together fragments of memory as Saitou's words echo in his mind. Saitou has asked if he was the one who summoned him to this world, but the wizard can barely remember anything, especially his knowledge of magic. His mind is clouded, and spells that were once second nature now feel like distant whispers. Only a faint, lingering feeling of one spell remains, which is called a moment of time, and it is a spell that freezes everything for a single heartbeat. Saitou, noticing the wizard's hesitation, steps forward and offers his help, using the memory of the spell he had seen once before. Slowly, with Saitou's guidance, the wizard begins to prepare the spell, drawing upon what little he can recall. Meanwhile, the dwarf sends a telepathic message to the group, alerting them of the plan. His master's magic will serve as a hidden advantage. He tells them that they only need to hold the pillar's eye open until the wizard can finish the spell. Encouraged, the team springs into action, each one calling on their unique abilities to keep the pillar from causing further chaos. The forest elf takes charge, directing Raelza to protect Giver and Ninia, while he focuses on keeping the rogue pillar's eye open by goading it into firing beams. With each blast, the eye remains active, allowing the wizard and Saitou to continue their chanting. But just as they begin to make progress, disaster strikes. Laugh-N-Pan is hit by a beam, throwing her off balance and forcing her out of the action. The wizard and Saitou feel the urgency rising, knowing they must speed up the process to avoid further harm to their friends. Montel and his students jump in to cover them, creating a shield of defense to protect the wizard as he continues the chant. The air grows thick with tension, each member of the group locked in a fierce battle to hold the line while the wizard struggles to recall the spell. Slowly, painfully, he pieces together the final words, and at last, he reaches the end of the chant. A strange, powerful silence descends, and suddenly, everything around him stops. The world stands perfectly still, frozen in place as time itself halts, just as the spell had promised. The wizard looks around, amazed and bewildered at the stillness surrounding him. Friends and enemies alike are frozen mid-action, caught in a suspended moment. But as he takes in the scene, a new wave of confusion sweeps over him. The spell has worked, yet he stands alone in the quiet, unable to remember what he is supposed to do next. He has only 100 seconds with him, but he keeps zoning out, wondering what is supposed to be done next. He tries to wake Saitou up, but no one can listen to his voice. He suddenly looks at his palm and sees a scribbled set of instructions which say that he should attack the eyes with the magic, and he suddenly realizes that it was Saitou who did this to help him when the time is frozen. A surge of positive energy takes over the wizard, who yells that he will take revenge on the pillar for harming his teammates who are like his sons and daughters. In sheer anger, he starts chanting another magic spell to activate a magic that raises all the magical powers to extreme limits. He gathers all his energy, combining them all to form a fiery blast spell that is enough to destroy the pillar, and then he jumps towards it, but suddenly he is struck by painful memories. He gets flashbacks of the memories of the witch and the ninja, where he is crying beside an almost dead witch, and the fairy tells him about a mage that can save the life of the witch. He realizes that his enemy is doing all this for love and loyalty, and if he brings down the evil spirit like this, then there is no way to save the ninja and his allies. But for the sake of his friends and allies, he attacks the pillar with the dreadful magic, and soon the time starts running again. They all see that the pillar starts crumbling before them, and the wizard's limb falls on the ground, detached from his arm. Everyone gasps at the scene unfolding in front of them, but the wizard calmly replies that they should fix the fairy's wings, which might have fallen somewhere while she unleashed her black magic. Railsa tries to protest, saying that the ninja and his teammates tried to kill them, so they have no obligation to help them. The wizard replies that just before he released his magic, he saw their memories and he couldn't kill them anymore. That is why he used half his magic to attack to avoid killing them, and at the same time he activated magic cancellation. It succeeded wonderfully, but since half his magic was forced to flow backwards, he lost his arm in the process. Hearing this, Railsa has tears in her eyes as she runs forward to hug him. Soon, they start finding the fairy's wings, and after a bit of searching beneath the rocks, Laufenpan finds a pair of black wings. Guyver offers to help her seal the wings to the fairy's body with the help of his magic. But just when Laufenpan goes to attach the wings, the fairy wriggles in Giver's palms and angrily declares that she doesn't want charity from someone who is going along with humans. Laufenpan points towards the ninja and replies that the fairy is also doing well with a human, so at the end of the day they both are happy with humans. The ninja stands surrounded, his face filled with regret and sadness. He has been asked to send 2 demons back to the demon realm, but he explains that he can't do it by his own choice. These 2 demons have been with him for a long time, haunting his steps, and they have been causing the recent attacks in the nearby villages. The ninja admits his guilt and says that he would accept any punishment, even execution, for the trouble he has caused. However, he pleads for the fairy and the 2 demons to be spared, hoping to shield them from further harm. A dwarf among the adventurers nearby watches him carefully, sensing there is more to the ninja's story. After a brief pause, the dwarf asks if the ninja is searching for a certain powerful mage, one who has the ability to control time. The ninja's eyes brighten at the question. He nods, confirming that he has indeed heard about such a mage, and he even knows the mage is named Crom. This Crom is someone the ninja believes might hold the key to fixing his past mistakes, perhaps even saving a lost friend he can't forget. The dwarf then looks over to where a wizard, clearly injured, is having his arm attended to by Montel and several other adventurers. The dwarf reveals to the ninja that the mage he's searching for is right there before him. The injured wizard is Crom, with a rank so rare and powerful that he is known as a void rank magician. He is one of the most skilled mages in the famous Eastern Kingdom, and his reputation has spread far and wide. 10 years ago, he became well known when he set out to explore the dangerous Great Labyrinth, a place filled with untold mysteries and dangers. Crom's achievements have made him a legend, and hearing that the wizard standing before him is indeed Crom fills the ninja with a glimmer of hope. The ninja's heart races as he looks at the wizard, his mind racing with thoughts of possibility. If Crom can control time, he might be able to help the ninja save a powerful witch who has been lost for years and reunite him with his long-lost lover. His despair begins to lift, replaced by the faintest spark of hope. But suddenly, 3 swords thrust into the ground right in front of the ninja, breaking his thoughts. He glances up, surprised, as 2 shadowy figures step out from the darkness, their faces concealed but their presence intimidating. They move silently, their dark cloaks flowing, and their expressions unreadable as they approach the ninja and the group of adventurers. The 2 men declare that they will punish the ninja for the killings and order the swords to attack him. But before the swords can touch the ninja, his comrade demon takes the attack on himself. The other demon angrily marches in front of the two men and warns them that if they lay their filthy hands on his boss, then he will finish them both. But suddenly, one of the men transforms into a demon, revealing that he is the uncle of the demon who works for the ninja. As soon they both started bonding over fond memories of the past. Seeing this, the Black Wings fairy confirms that the Holy Knight is definitely a demon, and a pretty high-ranked one. Saitou asks Laufenpan about how many people have been killed by the demon's sneak attacks, and she replies that there are 2 who haven't been confirmed revived, and a Holy Knight and a magician from another kingdom. It turns out that the magician and knight are the 2 fellows in front of them. One of them is the minister of the king. Also, if these 2 fellows forgive the ninja, then he won't be hanged. Soon, the ninja asks the wizard if he can help him in turning time, and the wizard replies that he can only stop time for a moment. The person who can actually conduct the time reversal magic is the wizard who has summoned the items from another dimension to this world. But he grew tired of the world and went somewhere else. The wizard has no idea where the stranger is. He can be in the demon realm, the spirit realm, or perhaps in the human world, where Saitou came from, and finding him will be impossible. The minister comes forward and says that there might be another way to save the witch. The king whom he serves is capable of conducting that magic, but it requires the life of a person who is connected with the witch. Both the demons turn towards the ninja, urging him to not give up his life, and there might be some other way to revive the witch. But the ninja asks the minister to use his life. He declares that if he is to be hanged anyway, he will use his life to protect the woman he loves. The minister replies that the ninja should be treated according to the laws of the kingdom. But if everyone pretends to look past his crimes and forgive him, then something else can be worked out. Soon everyone decides to forgive the ninja, and Saitou says that if the ninja wishes to be of use to someone, then he should be allowed to do that. Later the demons are sent back to their homes, and the minister has contacted the king who can break the curse of the witch, and he gets ready to use the teleportation magic to take the ninja to him. After the ninja is teleported, Lafonpa asks Saitou if he has found the robot vacuum that he had been looking for, and he says that he hasn't found it yet. He adds that he is not focused on that specifically. The wizard says that the magician who might have lived here in the past must have called these things when he opened the doors to other worlds. Soon, other magicians start coming to the labyrinth, indicating that the new area has become popular. On the other hand, the king accompanies that ninja to the witch's home in order to break the spell on the dying witch. The ninja tells the king that his rash act of loving the witch has led her to grow old, and that when he realized for the first time that just as he cared for his friends, the people he killed must have also had people they loved. The king replies that the fact that he hadn't realized something so simple until now makes him look like a petty man. Soon, he raises his sword and strikes at the ninja to break the spell. But the king, being a kind person, doesn't kill the ninja but cuts off one of his arms and legs. The witch steps out of her chamber, her appearance restored to youthfulness and strength after a long rest. Her skin is smooth, her face bright and lively, and her energy unmistakable. As she glances around, she notices a figure waiting nearby, a lone ninja who stands silent, but she is quick to observe that he is missing both a limb and a leg. This loss, though painful, seems to not trouble him as much as his steady gaze on her does. What she does not realize, however, is that this injured man has endured immense suffering and sacrifice for her sake. Unbeknownst to her, the black-winged fairy has given up her own wings to save him, sparing his life at a great personal cost. The fairy's wings were her most treasured possession, the essence of her being, yet she let them go to save this loyal ninja. The witch, who has been in a deep slumber for a long time, has forgotten much about her past and the people who cared for her, including the ninja standing before her now. Without recognizing him, she casts a casual, indifferent glance in his direction and starts to walk away. Watching this, the ninja feels a pang of sorrow in his heart, realizing that she remembers nothing of their connection. He quietly turns to leave, his heart heavy with unspoken words. Yet, just as he begins to walk away, the black-winged fairy emerges, mocking him with a fiery tone, urging him not to retreat without speaking his truth, without confessing his love to the one he has cherished in silence for so long. But the ninja, filled with humility and gratitude, replies that it doesn't matter if his love is unacknowledged. He is content knowing she is safe and alive. The fairy, outraged at his refusal to speak his feelings, lets out a furious scream, reminding him of her sacrifices. She points out that she has given her wings, becoming weaker and thinner in the process, all to see his love fulfilled. Refusing to let him leave in cowardice, she challenges him to stay, face the witch with courage, and try to win her heart once more. Just then, as the ninja turns back, he notices the witch being approached by two suspicious figures. Initially, he assumes she is still powerful enough to handle such trivial threats and does not intervene. But the black-winged fairy, perceptive and wise, informs him that she can sense no magic within the witch and her power appears to have vanished during her long rest. This revelation jolts the ninja into action, and without further hesitation, he rushes toward the witch, determined to shield her from harm. He swiftly drives away the two men who have dared to approach her. To his surprise, it turns out that these two figures are not ordinary thugs, but rather his own sworn brothers, demons who have arrived with the black-winged fairy to play a role in his love story. They, too, have come to help him overcome his fear and win back the witch's heart, hoping that through their intervention, the ninja and the witch will finally realize their love and come together. The adventurers bid each other farewell at the labyrinth's exit, each going their separate ways but promising to meet again when fate allows. Together, they head back to town, feeling both exhausted and accomplished. They decide to unwind at a nearby inn, a cozy place with the warm aroma of hearty food filling the air, making it the perfect spot to relax after their challenging journey. Gathered around a large table, they share their recent tales, laugh, and feel grateful for the bond they've formed in their shared adventure. As they enjoy their meal, someone finally raises the question that's been on everyone's mind, and they want to know how the mysterious wizard among them managed to bring Saitou into their own. The wizard admits that he can hardly recall the details. He remembers practicing his magic one day, just as he often does, and then, out of nowhere, Saitou appeared in Rails' room, as if by pure chance or fate. It's a mystery even to him, and he expresses a sense of guilt, explaining that he hadn't intended to transport Saitou to their world without his permission. However, Saitou, appreciating the wizard's honesty, doesn't hold any resentment and in fact, he feels thankful for this twist of fate, as it saved him from a terrible accident in his own world. The group sits in thoughtful silence until Lafinpan voices an idea that has been lingering in everyone's mind. She suggests that if the wizard's magic was strong enough to bring Saitou into their world, perhaps that same magic could send him back to where he came from. The possibility sparks a wave of mixed emotions around the table, each member contemplating what this could mean. For Railza, who has grown close to Saitou through their battles and shared experiences, the idea of him leaving strikes a deep chord. She feels a surge of resistance and is reminded of the promise Saitou made to stay by her side and work with her until the end. The thought of parting ways with him feels too painful to bear, as she values the friendship and strength he's brought into her life. She adds that their party's reputation only started to rise after Saitou joined them, and if he returns then they would be lost without him. Saying this, she storms out of the inn with tears in her eyes, while Saitou anxiously follows her outside. Everyone starts searching for Saitou and Railza, worried that the monsters might be lurking around in the darkness and Railza has also left her sword behind. Saitou, a quiet adventurer from another world, has been feeling conflicted about his place in this new world, particularly in his relationship with Railza, a powerful warrior. Railza seems to sense his unease, so during a moment together, she asks him about his desire to return to his own world. Saitou admits that he doesn't truly wish to go back, revealing that no one really wants him there. Just as he starts to open up, an enormous, terrifying centipede-like monster, covered in thick armor, emerges suddenly from the sea. The creature is swift, lunging straight toward Railza, its razor-sharp claws poised to strike. Saitou freezes, overcome by helplessness, unable to intervene as the beast reaches Railza. The monster's claws dig deep into her armor, and Saitou watches in horror, fearing for her safety. However, to his surprise, Railza draws on an incredible reserve of strength, tearing the monster apart with her bare hands, splitting it cleanly in two. As the monster's body falls lifelessly into the water, Railza stands victorious but visibly shaken, her emotions spilling over. She reveals to Saitou, through the look in her eyes and the strength of her actions, how deeply she values him. She seems to be telling him without words that he means more to her than anyone else in this world. Saitou, still shaken but relieved that she is safe, steps closer to examine her injuries. He notices a few scars and, with a careful hand, applies a small bandage to one of them, reminding her to drink an anti-venom potion as a precaution. In his own quiet way, Saitou's gesture shows Railza that he, too, cares deeply for her, and he expresses his desire to stay by the side of the person who truly needs him. Raelza is moved but tries to hide her emotions, glancing instead at the fallen monster as if to distract herself from the intense moment. She even attempts to shift the conversation by commenting on Saitou's growing knowledge of monsters, trying to bring lightness back into their interaction. Before they can dwell any further on their feelings, the wizard and Laugh-in-Pan arrive on the scene. Raelza, with lingering concern for Saitou's future, asks the old wizard if he would be able to use his magic to send Saitou back to his original world. The wizard considers the idea, but explains that even if he had the proper spell book, returning Saitou to his world would place him in the exact same moment and situation he left. That is right in front of the large, speeding truck that had initially transported him to this world, leaving him to almost certain death. Though the thought brings a momentary sadness to Saitou, he quickly brushes it off with a glimmer of hope, saying he wasn't planning to return anyway. He realizes that he has finally found a place where he is needed and, most importantly, accepted. With his resolve reaffirmed, he decides to remain an adventurer alongside Raelza and their companions, embracing the dangers and wonders of this new life. They all continue on their journey, their bond now stronger than ever as they face new challenges together, trusting that they have each other's backs in both battle and in life. Months after the intense battle with dark spirits, Raelza, Laugh-in-Pan, and Saitou receive shocking news from a messenger that the wizard has passed away. The group is taken aback, especially Raelza, who is immediately filled with a sense of urgency. She thinks of every possible solution to revive him, asking the messenger if he has any revival potion or if they could rush the body to a nearby temple for revival. But the messenger dismisses her concerns, explaining that reviving a body through formal procedures or even preserving it at a morgue requires significant funds, which neither he nor anyone else is willing to spend. In an apathetic tone, he mentions that the wizard's body has been placed in a simple shed to prevent decay. But even that did not keep it entirely safe. A wild dog managed to bite part of the wizard's body, leaving them no choice but to bury him quickly to avoid further disrespect. Later, the group visits the wizard's grave to pay their respects, and it's clear that each of them feels a heavy sense of regret and sadness. Laugh-in-Pan, knowledgeable in magic and its limitations, expresses that revival magic is likely ineffective when a body is damaged, and certainly impossible if it has already been buried. Despite her reasoning, Saitou cannot shake off his disbelief and guilt over the wizard's death, finding it hard to accept that their attempts to save him with an antidote ultimately came too late. To him, it seems improbable that the wizard succumbed to mere venom when they had survived far more dangerous challenges together. Raelza shares his disbelief, struggling to come to terms with the idea that someone as powerful as the wizard could meet his end outside of battle. Driven by a flicker of hope, Saitou suggests they consider the possibility of digging up the body to at least try a revival spell. But Raelza knows this would demand an enormous donation to the church and an expense they cannot afford, especially since reviving a high-level mage is no small feat. She also knows that as time passes, the chances of revival success decrease dramatically. Saitou, however, argues that in this world, unlike the one he came from, death does not have to be the absolute end, and every passing moment without action reduces their chances of reviving the wizard. He presses the idea that they should take any chance they have, no matter how slim, to honor their friend and try to bring him back. Inspired by his determination, Laugh-in-Pan agrees with him and decides that they need to act swiftly. She readies herself to gather the necessary tools for the revival, planning to visit the magic shop and obtain what they need, while instructing Raelza and Saitou to find suitable digging tools. On her way to the shop, Laugh thinks about how important Saitou has been for their journey. She knows that without him, they would probably have given up a long time ago. Determined to find the tools they need, she goes from shop to shop, searching. But every place she visits is packed with people, so busy that getting what she needs seems impossible. After a while, feeling frustrated and defeated, she returns to the grave. However, when she arrives, she is shocked. The grave they had carefully dug is now empty, the dirt scattered around, and the wizard's body is nowhere to be seen. Just then, Saitou and Raelza arrive, and they, too, are startled to see the disturbed grave. But before they can make sense of it, something strange catches their eye. A figure stands at a distance and looks like a man draped in a dark, torn cape and wearing a tall, pointed hat like a wizard. However, something about him feels wrong. This figure stands alone, shooting waves of fire into the sky in chaotic bursts. They stare, unable to understand what they're seeing, and as they watch, it becomes clearer that this is no ordinary person. The figure looks like a skeleton, his hollow eyes glowing with a fierce, unnatural light. For a moment, Railza and Saitou wonder if this might be their wizard, somehow brought back to life in this twisted form. But as they look closer, they realize that he doesn't seem to recognize them at all. He just keeps casting fire wildly, with no focus or control. Realizing they are in real danger, Railza and Saitou hide behind a large rock, pressing themselves against it to protect themselves from the fiery attacks. Railza's mind races as she understands the seriousness of their situation. She knows that if they just stay hidden, the skeleton might soon target them directly, and they would have no way to escape. In her heart, she feels they have no choice but to face this threat, even though it is dangerous. Gathering her courage, she decides she must act. She dashes across the open sand toward the skeleton, with Saitou right behind her, both hoping to end this terrifying ordeal. As Railza approaches, she raises her sword and strikes at the skeleton's head with all her strength. Her blade connects, but to her horror, it does almost nothing. The skeleton's head shakes from the impact, but it remains unbroken, barely affected. Railza quickly realizes that her weapon is useless against this foe. Only a magical weapon can break through this skeleton's defenses, and she begins to panic and keeps dodging its relentless attacks while trying to figure out another way to fight it. Seeing Railza struggle, Saitou comes up with an idea. He runs toward her, carrying a bottle of holy water. If Railza can pour it over her sword, it might transform her weapon into something magical and powerful enough to defeat the skeleton. But just as Saitou tries to hand her the bottle, the skeleton turns to them and unleashes a fierce blast of fire. The blast shatters the bottle instantly, spilling the holy water into the sand. Both Railza and Saitou feel a surge of fear as they realize their last hope has slipped away, and the skeleton is now preparing another, more powerful attack aimed straight at Railza. Suddenly, just as all hope seems lost, a strong force strikes the skeleton from an unexpected direction. The hit is so powerful that it knocks the skeleton's head off completely, sending it rolling across the sand. Railza and Saitou turn in shock, looking to see who or what has intervened. They spot a shadowy figure emerging from the distance. This figure resembles their wizard in a strange way, though it seems different. The shadow mumbles, repeating something in a voice that sounds oddly familiar. Railza's heart skips a beat as she recognizes the voice, and it's unmistakably the voice of their wizard. A mix of relief and confusion washes over them. Saitou feels a wave of relief, glad to see some form of their friend alive. But as they move closer, they see that the wizard's appearance is far from normal. His body is skeletal, his face gaunt, with empty eyes that gaze at them in a daze. When Railza tries to understand what happened, the wizard seems confused himself, only recalling that he was lying down and then lost consciousness. But then, something strange begins to happen. The wizard's skeletal form slowly changes, flesh and bone gradually returning, bit by bit. His hollow face begins to take on familiar features, his skin and beard reappearing in patches, until he finally stands before them, looking like the wizard they knew. While Railza is relieved to see him alive, she can't help feeling a bit disgusted by the sight of his features coming back in this unsettling way. Despite the strangeness, they both feel reassured with the wizard back by their side, ready to face whatever dangers lie ahead. Later at the inn, the wizard tells them that he had signed a resurrection contract, which means that even if he dies, he will come back to life after a day. It's a high-level magic and effective only once. Saitou exclaims in joy that he is glad to see that the wizard is back to life. But suddenly the wizard's face turns into a skeleton and then back to normal, indicating that the spell keeps coming back to him, making him turn into a skeleton over and over again. Lafa declares that the geezer's body part is missing, and that is why the revival magic is not working on him, and there is nothing they can do about it. Hearing their conversation, the dwarf who loves the wizard enters the inn and declares that he will help the wizard and shows them the great encyclopedia of magic that has all the spells, called the Magicpedia. According to the book, when the revival magic fails because a part of the body is missing, then they have to bring back the missing part. Even if the flesh is eaten and consumed, the magical energy will remain in the one who consumed it. So if they find the dog that ate the wizard's body part and bring its magical energy, then the wizard will be able to revive completely. The next morning, they are off to find the dog with the help of the dwarf, but they can't seem to detect the magic. Suddenly, the forest elf comes towards them, and he is scared shitless to see the skeleton form of the wizard. But later, when he comes to know that the innkeeper had told Saitou that the dog had a red mark on its forehead, he seems to recall something. He explains that there was a job vacancy posted in the city which was to find the huge dog with a cross-shaped scar on its head because it's attacking people. But the elf didn't take the job because the pay was low and he had other work. But the dog was on the outskirts of the town in the west. Hearing this, Saitou declares that they should immediately go to that place. They reach the desert where dead bodies are buried. The wizard and Saitou stop at a place to rest while Raelza and others are walking ahead. The wizard tells Saitou that Raelza was an orphan when he found her. She had lost his father to a wolf attack, and her mother died fighting the wolf's mate. Since then, she had lived with a wolf pup and became friends with it until the wizard found him. For the wizard, Raelza is like her very own daughter, so he asks Saitou to take her along wherever he goes. Saitou is a bit flustered and replies that they need to consider Raelza's feeling too. The old geezer says that Raelza already like him very much. The wizard adds that if there is anyone he will trust his daughter with, it will only be Saitou, but if he is not ready, he will not force him. Saitou replies that he is not sure if a guy like him is suitable for her, but he will try his best, and finally he asks the wizard if he can have Raelza. Hearing this, the wizard hugs Saitou and starts sobbing. Suddenly, the wild dog with insane magician energy jumps on the wizard and bites his hand off his body, and when Saitou tries to save him, he is attacked too. When Raelza and Lafa run off to find them, they find them both lying on the ground, whimpering in pain while the wild dog is right there in front of them. Raelza asks Lafa to help Saitou with her revival magic as she is still breathing, while she will deal with the wild dog, who is munching on their body parts. Raelza yells in anger that she will cut the wild dog in pieces and retrieve the geezer's body parts from its body. Saying this, she runs towards the dog, while it runs towards her, and they both brutally clash with each other. The dog releases the fire breath from deep within its body, which blows off Raelza's armor. But Raelza charges at it nevertheless and strikes at its vital nerve, injuring the dog. Just when she tries to kill it, an adorable white wolf pup comes between and starts barking at Raelza. She quickly realizes that it's the dog's pup. Hearing the voice of its pup, the wolf stands up with difficulty and walks towards Raelza, asking her to kill him, but spare his son's life. Raelza angrily looks at the wolf, but Saitou grabs her attention by telling her that the wizard is not breathing. Raelza declares that she will spare the pup, but she will cut off the limbs of the wolf and retrieve the magical energy from it to save the wizard. But just as she raises her sword to do that, two tentacles pierce the body of the wolf and Lafa yells that it's the great demon. The demon starts disappearing with the wolf's body, but Saitou quickly takes an anchor out of his tool belt and wraps it around the wolf's body, determined to not let it go until the wizard is resurrected. Lafa quickly infuses Raelza's sword with her magic. Raelza asks the Demon King to leave the dog, but it doesn't because he wishes to take the revenge of his dead brother. He adds that the dog should have shriveled up and died by now, but it ended up eating a tremendous amount of magical energy, so his master has ordered him to take it back. The demon starts chanting the curse of the seven lightning and Raelza runs towards it to save the wolf before the chants are complete. But the curse is unleashed, so Lafa releases a gold barrier to save Raelza. Raelza takes the opportunity and stabs the demon with her sword. However, the demon's master comes to the surface and attacks them with a fire energy, and Lafa collapses while saving Raelza. The Demon King emerged out of his body, and Raelza realizes that it's one of the strongest enemies she has ever comes across. She asks Saitou to take Lafa and run away, because he will hold her back. She asks him to leave the wizard and the dog, and she will bring them back with her. Saitou runs with Lafa and tries to take the pup too, but the pup is not willing to leave without the father wolf. Saitou wonders what he should do to save his friends while Raelza is dealing with the brutal Demon King. The Demon King wraps its tentacles around Raelza, saying that she will make a beautiful stuffed specimen. It goes on to pierce Raelza's neck with his tentacles, but Saitou runs towards it with its wire cutter and cuts its tentacle. Raelza cuts the Demon King in two halves, but as soon as it reaches its core, the ice curse is released. But Saitou butts in and takes the curse on himself and gets frozen. Raelza keeps fighting with the demon to save Saitou from being killed. Closeby, Saitou had placed the wizard's body close to the wolf, and now the old geezer can feel a magical energy close to its body. His soul reaches another realm, where the dead dog is asking the wizard to take care of the pup in exchange of his magic energy, and the wizard readily agrees. On the other hand, Raelza is badly injured with blood spewing out of her body. But suddenly the demon's head is cut off and Saitou's ice is broken, and he lands in Raelza's arms. They both realize that it's the power of the 6 magic wind-killing swords, and when they look in that direction, they see that the wizard is back again, with all his strength and magical power. The wizard attacks the demon with his magic 8-point fire swords which pierce through its body and kills the demon king. The wizard walks towards Saitou, Lafa and Railza, who are shedding tears of joy on seeing him again. The wizard has grown a pair of ears and tail in exchange for the dog's magical powers. He tells everyone that the dog gave its power to him, but he has to take care of his pup. But he wishes to return the dog's share of power to revive him for his pup. But suddenly a huge gust of wind comes right in front of them and knocks the wizard, and everyone stares in bewilderment as the demon king rises again. But the wizard is not hurt at all. He gathers all his energy and soon turns into a handsome young man, declaring that he has gained his youth back. He suddenly summons a massive golem with his teleportation magic and fuses it to make a huge rock monster. In the fierce heat of battle, the demon king broke through the massive rock golem with unstoppable force, his eyes locked on the lone wizard who dared to defy him. But the wizard, brimming with courage, responded with a powerful punch, landing a blow squarely across the demon king's face. Seizing the moment, he commanded the golem's shattered rocks to gather and attempted to crush the demon beneath them. Using his magic, he intensified his grip, forcing every stone to bind itself to the demon king's body, locking him in place like metal shards clinging to a powerful magnet. Still, the wizard knew this would only buy him a few moments to protect his allies. With haste, he drew a large barrier around them, hoping to shield them from the demon king's relentless wrath. Now, in a last desperate bid to end this struggle, the wizard began to summon his ultimate weapon, the legendary 8-pointed flame sword, a fiery formation known as the Flame Sword of War. The atmosphere thickened with power as he brings the flames into existence, 8 blazing points forming above him. But just as the moment of triumph neared, his mind went blank. He'd forgotten the ancient chance that would unleash the weapon's full strength. This falter left him vulnerable, and the Demon King, sensing weakness, surged forward with deadly intent. As the demon closed in, ready to strike down the wizard, Saitou charged into the scene, wielding Railza's sword with unwavering determination. With one swift stroke, Saitou sliced through the demon's arm, halting his advance. This unexpected strike gave the wizard the opportunity he needed. Saitou urged him to channel his fire magic to burn the Demon King, and together, they unleashed the scorching flames that finally engulfed the monstrous foe. As the last of the fire faded, a wave of relief swept over them, signaling that the Demon King had been defeated. Railza, overwhelmed with gratitude and emotions for Saitou's bravery, ran towards him, her heart racing as she prepared to embrace him. But before she could reach him, a startling sight halted her in her tracks when the severed head of the Demon King, which had somehow retained a trace of life, lunged toward them. Just as it seemed the danger wasn't over, a small pup, the offspring of the wild dog who had once guarded their lands, pounced on the head, eliminating the last remnant of the Demon King. However, the young pup's loyalty turned to anger, barking and growling at Saitou and the wizard, accusing them of killing his father, the wild dog. In a heartbreaking moment, the wizard sensed the pup's grief and carefully picked him up, allowing the pup to take in his scent. Somehow, the familiar smell seemed to calm the pup, as the wizard's energy felt reminiscent of his father's. Moved by the little creature's loss, the wizard made a bold decision. He poured some of his life energy into the lifeless form of the wild dog, despite his companion's protests. Slowly, the wild dog stirred back to life, awakening to see his pup crying beside him. The wizard's selfless act took a toll on his own strength, and as the dog and pup reunited, he collapsed from exhaustion. Railza, filled with worry, lifted him in her arms, determined to take him home and nurse him back to health. Back in the inn, Saitou wakes suddenly to find Railza sitting quietly across from him, her gaze steady as she watches him regain his senses. She explains that he fell into a deep slumber as soon as they returned. Saitou notices a softness in her expression, a rare and fleeting glimpse of concern. They share this quiet moment until they step out to join the others. Outside, the wizard is up and about, fully recovered after a good night's sleep, though his rest seems to have only rekindled his mischief, and he's already stirring up trouble among the inn's guests and staff, much to everyone's surprise. Later, Railza and Saitou make their way to the top of the labyrinth, climbing to a vantage point where they can gaze over the winding paths below. The atmosphere is peaceful, and Railza seems pensive, her gaze distant as she shares something deeply personal. She tells Saitou that while he was resting, she had found herself talking to a stray dog they'd encountered on the way. For someone as guarded as Railza, this seems out of character. But then she explains that the dog reminded her of a wolf pup she had once known. In her early years, Railza had spent 3 winters with that wolf pup, surviving through difficult times together. She muses that this experience might have made her rougher, less refined than others, shaping her in ways that only those who'd shared hardships might understand. In her heart, she feels she belongs only with people who accept her for exactly who she is, and Saitou realizes how deeply he values her presence. He blurts out that he needs her in his life more than anyone else in this world, the words leaving his mouth before he can stop them. Just as the gravity of his admission settles between them, the dwarf rushes toward them, his voice breaking the silence. Breathless and agitated, he announces that the wizard has lost the inn's keys and has somehow managed to get himself into trouble. He needs Saitou's help with the locks, urgently tugging him away and leaving Raelza alone on the rooftop. Later, once the chaos has calmed, Saitou finds himself with the wizard in a quiet room. He brings a small bottle of honey, offering it to the wizard, who, in a rare moment of openness, seems pleased by the unexpected gesture. The simple treat creates a rare pause in the wizard's antics, softening his mood for just a moment. Not long after, Saitou seeks out Raelza again, this time with a carefully crafted gift, which is a sharp, sturdy weapon he's made especially for her. As she examines it, she notices a small hairpin cleverly attached to the weapon's handle. She understands instantly that this is Saitou's way of giving her something personal, beyond the practical gift of a weapon. With a faint smile, she removes the hairpin and places it in her hair, a quiet acknowledgement of his gesture. Their next journey brings them face to face with a magical beast, a manticore whose appearance amusingly resembles the wizard. With swift determination, Raelza strikes it down in a single, powerful blow, her spirit seemingly renewed. There's an energy in her movements that hints at a newfound strength, a confidence born from the unspoken bond between her and Saitou. Later, Saitou prepares a bath for Lafa, and she is thrilled to have a small bath for her to relax and have some fun. Later, they both end up sleeping because of exhaustion, and the next day when they wake up, Lafa is not a small fairy anymore, she has gained the size of a human. After some time, they both go on a walk together where Lafa is jumping in joy because she is back to her usual size, indicating that her curse has been broken. Saitou suddenly gives her a beautiful robe, but she refuses to accept it because she doesn't have gold coins to give to Saitou. But Saitou quickly replies that this is an apology and a gift of gratitude for Lafa's acts of selflessness. Lafa wears the robe and starts running around in joy, but she suddenly bumps into a thug. The thug walks towards her in an intimidated manner and starts messing with her, but Saitou steps in to protect her. The thug looks at Saitou and asks if he is the one who found the new door of the labyrinth and mocks him for being a complete weakling while his teammates are very strong. He yells at him to stop acting like a big man just because he is a bit famous and then proceeds to punch Saitou. But Saitou quickly holds his arm and twists it behind his back, making him fall face first on the ground, begging for him to stop. Later, Lafa gets back to her usual small size and Raelza returns from the acupuncture shop with the wizard. The trio looked at the container in which Lafa had a bath and turned it into a human size. Soon the dwarf comes to their rescue again and tells that the wizard has a lot of strange things that make fairies go back to their usual size for some time. Soon, Saitou starts a handyman business in this new world where slowly and gradually, all their former teammates start flocking in the inn to get his help in doing some odd jobs, and finally Saitou realizes that he is a great handyman who is loved by all.